Hey everyone, this is Professor Almena here. I wanted to take a moment to record this pre-lecture video just so that I can gather some thoughts and roll out the lesson a little bit early today so that you can see what the plan is. And in case we have any interruptions with internet or issues of Wi-Fi, or just there's a distraction and perhaps we can't make it to class today due to travels and holidays and things of that sort. I wanted to get this video in about the minimalist poster so that we can be real specific, real clear, and know what we're going to be working on today. Now, this presentation will talk about the 4 steps to a minimalist poster. We'll also take a look at some sample movie posters within the last 90 years. We'll take a look at some minimalist movie poster samples, and then I'm going to share with you a video conversation that I pre-recorded last semester with my digital illustration fall 2020 students, talking about the minimalist poster and specifically about how to interpret the meaning of the film and place it graphically onto a piece of sketch paper. So we're going to actually work out how to extrapolate the theme through a conversation, and we're going to watch that conversation as well. So let's jump in, shall we? And let's talk a little bit about minimalist poster. Okay, so we're going to try to do this project within about 3 class sessions. So we're going to take all that we learned from the Mickey t-shirt design, and we're going to do it again. But this time, rather than me give you the Mickey graphics, you're going to create your own graphics using 2 techniques that I'll show you in our next lesson. Okay. The minimalist poster ultimately is about saying less, right? Or saying more with less. So Back to the Future, great film, right? We have the movie poster on the left, but if I wanted to kind of show you what the meaning of the film is, or one of its meanings is, then you could look at this poster, minimalist poster on the right, and it would be a metaphor, a visual metaphor for the changing of time, right? Timeline skews off into another direction. And this is a moment or an image in the film that one designer took and created a poster out of it to kind of tell you something about the film. That's ultimately a big picture look of how we can move into a minimalist poster. How can we determine the theme and show that theme graphically? And here are the steps. Okay, step 1, determine the theme. Okay, so in the next video, you'll basically see a conversation where we're working out how to determine a theme with my students. Is the film about love? More specifically, what is it in one sentence, the theme, right? It's looking for love, right? What is the theme for soaring, right? Reach for your goals. What is the theme for like Chicano, right? So we want to know in one sentence what that theme is, and we're going to translate that theme with pictures, with graphics, right? So if I'm trying to say that the theme is, for example, Rocky, it's about, reaching your goals, or reaching the American dream, right? Or reaching, taking advantage of an opportunity, then I'm going to visualize that with things like a person running up the stairs, which is a scene from the film, but I'm sort of going to make that a graphic. So there's so many different ways to do it, that's where your creativity kicks in. So step 2 is take your step 1 theme, that one sentence about what the movie is about, and then extract it to step 2. Then step 3 is alter the graphic so it relates to the film, right? So whatever that image is, right, or the theme is, and you know what graphics you want to use for it, bring it back to the film. Bring it back so that it's something you saw in the movie. I don't know if you've ever seen the film Inception, but Inception is about, ultimately a film with Leonardo DiCaprio where, spoiler alert, right? He's sort of like this dream hacker. So he gets into people's dreams and he gives them a thought, or gives an inception of an idea so that the person carries it out. And he does that by going into their dreams and and sort of depositing this idea so that it's permanent and the person takes action. And the only way he knows he's in the dream world or the real world, because the two are virtually the same, and you can get stuck in between one or the other, is that you need something like a token to know whether you're in reality or not. And so this little spinny topsy-turvy toy is his token to know that he's a reminder to know he's dreaming, and whether he's dreaming or he's in the real world. So then the graphic for this poster that you see on screen is the image, which is the token or the topsy-turvy or the turning or the spinning toy. I don't know the name, but spinning toy. And then it related back to that movie using that graphic. And then this designer also used images of the buildings in the film, which is another highlight of like altering reality. So they used the building, they used the graphic of the toy, the spinning toy, and combined it in a way that kind of says two things at one time. And so that's the theme. That's a symbol or a graphic representation of the theme. And then the last step is to add the name of that film, right, with a font that expresses the theme, right? So if the film is very contemporary or modern, I'm going to use a geometric font or a sans serif typeface to make that design appear visual. And more contemporary, if it's a classic film, I'm going to use a classic typeface, which is called a serif typeface or serif font, which is the little feet that kind of are on the bottom of a font. If you know Times New Roman, that's a serif typeface. Okay, and then we have different ways to pull up the theme, but those are ultimately the 4 steps. Okay, so once we determine those 4 steps, then you'll see in the video that we're going to create thumbnail sketches to kind of work out those ideas on paper. So I'm going to just kind of switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to ultimately show you a quick conversation that I had with my students in regards to deriving the theme. So here's some footage from the film. I'm going to go ahead and play that footage. And we're going to just observe how I derive that meaning from the film. So let's go ahead and jump in and take a look. So let's just kind of have a conversation and just kind of see what you guys think about it and how you feel. Okay. So let's start off with 97%. So for those of us that watch it, what do you guys, how can you break down the movie 97%? What are some things about the film that you guys found interesting about it? I think Bradley, you said you watched it. DJ, you watched it. So anything about that film that you found interesting?
The app they created.
Which one? Because I had to go downstairs.
So it's the app, so 97%, excuse me. So 97% is there's no dialogue whatsoever. It is completely silent. It's not a silent film, it has sound. There's just no dialogue whatsoever. So just some thoughts, we're just having a quick conversation. But what did you guys think of that movie, and how can you explain that film to me or to the class?
It's easy to group up and you're too, like, people are like
Kind of trying to chasing someone that's right in front of you, but you don't realize it.
Okay, so chasing someone. Okay, who's chasing who?
He was chasing the girl, wasn't he?
Yeah, so we have what looks like a bachelor, and he's using an app basically, and it's kind of like one of those in search of love apps, but it alerts you whenever you're near like somebody that's compatible. So it's kind of like Tinder with like a little bit of a geographic thing. So like whenever you're near somebody, it lets you know, hey, there's somebody compatible near you, which is kind of like creepy in a way, but at the same time, it's kind of adds to the humor. So anything else that kind of stood out to you in regards to that film? Okay, Kelena says that being too dependent on an app instead of your own sense. So that's a good descriptor there. Okay.
Plot mainly took place on the train.
Okay, mainly took place on a train. Okay. So as you're saying those things, I'm literally like writing them down on my paper. So I'm just kind of like displaying, I'm just like literally putting it down. So train, right? Looking for love. And then can I say too dependent on an app? So I'm gonna write down app dependent for those folks if you can't read my chicken scratches. So just making a couple of notes there. Anything else that kind of stood out about the film that maybe one more thing that kind of stood out that we want to highlight?
I guess the main thing would just be the heart on the app saying the 97%.
Yeah, what's the 97% about? Yeah, it's a percentage of compatibility. So this person was 97% compatible to them, which I found interesting because I don't know why 97. I just found that kind of interesting. So so the heart, right? So we have that 97% heart image applied there. So I'm literally just writing that down I'm writing that down on my notes. So I'm just taking a quick note of that, okay? And so when I make a note of that, that's going to help me in my sort of thinking process. These are the memories. These are sort of like the key moments, I would say, from the film. Okay. So that's kind of a little snippet in my process. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. What next film? Sorry about that. Next film we're going to talk about is the Soar. Who got the chance to see Soar? It's very noisy here today. Okay, so let's talk about Soar. And let me switch the camera there for a second. Some highlights. What are some things that you remember about about Soar?
They didn't give up.
Okay, so anyone want to kind of go over the plot line a little bit?
This little girl is trying to build a model plane, and she's about to give up when a little person in a plane crashes in front of her, and then they work together to repair his plane.
Okay, so girl, model plane, repairing the plane, right? So these are like some important moments. Anything else that kind of stood out graphically in that film that kind of like just memories, important moments in the film that you remember?
The two graphically things I could think of are the ship or the model plane and the star at the end.
I also liked when he had the pencil in his hands and was like ready to defend himself.
Love that. So I'm writing these key moments, okay? And I always do that in anything I do, especially with films. I'm always remembering those key moments in the film. It kind of takes me back a little bit when we were designing products. And we'll just stop it there. So that was when we did this conversation. It was during on my birthday. So I wanted to highlight and just stop there for a minute and just kind of highlight the conversation, right? What are key moments that you remember from the film and how, and we're going to write it down on the sketch paper or the thumbnail sketches. Now, the next thing I go into is I basically go into a conversation of like how to develop the sketches. And so in the conversation, let me go ahead and fast forward here, is that I want to kind of highlight a little bit about how to draw these thumbnail sketches in translation to the film. So the next thing I want to show you is how I like to look at sort of just different film movie posters throughout the evolution or history of movie posters and gather some information about what is it about the movie poster that stands out. So let's take a look at some of the footage. This is 90 years of movie posters. Okay, and go ahead and take a look at that. And this is a really nice resource because as I'm looking at all these links and all these different years of posters, things don't really change too much, right? In terms of the principles of design, if we were going to look at these, you tend to always have a focal point, right? And there's always going to be that graphic that kind of dominates, right? the second largest thing, just looking at these links, what's the second focal point, or these in terms of hierarchy, right? Graphic is number one, but the second biggest thing on the poster would be what would you say?
The name of the movie.
Yeah, typography, the name of the movie. So right off the bat, there's two things you're going to do in your movie poster. Okay, no surprise, right? Highly graphic, right? Focal point, and the name or typography is key. Okay, and so any type of poster should always be visible, and they always add these in rubrics, but they should be visible from at least 6 feet away, right? It's something that's supposed to capture your interest in an instant, right? You know, I think, you know, back in the days they said like in 10 seconds, you know, now they're saying, you know, half that time, right? But it should be instantly, you should be able to walk by and just, it should capture your attention instantly. And so that's definitely a second part that I want to highlight as well, is that as we design, we want to make sure, as you see in my footage here, that it's highly graphic, we have typography, but it's historic, right? This is typical of most movie posters. When we compare it to the minimalist movie poster, we notice that it's the same idea, just vector. So minimalist poster design. I pull the blinds down 11 in the afternoon, right? Which is the style that we're gonna, that are kind of like your favorite. So let me go back there. Now this person is trying to like sell their designs, but I always like to reference it. But take a look and maybe select one or two in the chat and just tell me which one of these is your favorite or looks kind of cool and interesting to you. So now at this concept is that we're looking at inspiration, and we're basically trying to determine if something's going to be inspiring to the design. So if you look at these movie poster designs, we're going to be able to determine if the design is similar to the theme that you're trying to pursue, right? And so that's key, right? Like, where's the inspiration? Where's the idea coming from? How can we pull it into this idea of how you're building your designs? And ultimately, what we want to do is get inspired, get excited about a certain look, a certain feel, a certain design, and then we go into the sketch. Okay, we're almost done here. So we're going to take a look at just the process of developing the sketch, which is what we're going to do tonight. Okay, here we go. I always like to use like little stick figures. So for me, you know, if I want to try to think about the film, I try to think about the film and just try to think abstractly and just try to sketch away just different concepts and ideas, right? Sometimes I start with a number. I kind of like to go asymmetrical too. So I never try to stay too centered into something. I just automatically go asymmetrical. And then I just think about just graphics. So based on what people were saying here, you know, you were saying things like a train, right? So sometimes you might need to do like some type of silhouette of a train, throw that in there. And in the film, there was a little bit of a talk of like a cityscape. So maybe, you know, we want to do some type of lines that kind of represent a cityscape. And, you know, the uglier, the better. These are meant to be really rough doodles. I always like to do lots of different lines just to kind of give me a little bit of a figure of where things are going. And just give me a little bit of a perspective for where I want to go with it. Sometimes it might not be exactly what I want. So, you know, maybe I'll try to put, you know, the heart graphic. I know we were saying that, you know, there's something that kind of looks like a heart. So if it's about heart and looking for love, maybe I'll do something that's kind of like 97%. And who knows, maybe I'll try to create this track in the background, and maybe there's like a little train coming at me or something of that sort. And I put like a couple of lines here to represent like text, right? The idea is that you really want to be fast about it. You don't want to spend too much time looking at anything. You just kind of want to be really fast with your hand. And the best way is just to kind of think of it as a doodle, you know? The rougher, the better. And you really just want to go pretty quick when it comes to the image. You know, mobile app, right? Depends on the phone that you have. You know, maybe it's a heart happening here. Don't know, you know, put the font there. And that could be a concept. But eventually, as you do more of these, you'll start to kind of pick up on a layout that looks a little bit more interesting, looks a little bit, you know, more engaging. It's just something that you kind of feel like drawn to. But the idea is that you want to give yourself at least, you know, I mean, I could go on forever doing these, right? But it's, you know, 3-4 different concepts per film. Or if you pick the one film, obviously you want to aim to as much as 8, just to kind of see what you create. In the beginning, most students just say, well, I want to do 1, and that's it. It's like, okay, that's great. But, you know, maybe try a different variations, right? Try something on top of the page. You know, try something on the bottom of the page. Try one in the center of the page. Those are 3 different ideas that you can kind of bring out of that, right? You know, if I'm doing soar, you know, soar, there's so many ideas that you can do with soar, like flying, right? So maybe it's a, you know, you got your star happening here. There, obviously we want to add the title. So, you know, I start off with something as simple as soar. And then I say, well, you know, what if I actually combine maybe the A with the star and then kind of apply that? That could be another concept there, right? So, and we'll go ahead and stop it there. So hopefully this gives you a nice overview of where we're going to go for this evening, guys, in the development of your poster design. And as you can see, I go into multiple variations on how to build it and structure the design. So what we're going to do this evening is that we're basically going to develop those thumbnail sketches, or if you see this before class, feel free to start right before class and develop your thumbnail sketches, because this is meant to be a very quick, less than an hour activity and exercise. And then right after that, we're going to talk a little bit about how to render it or create it. So what we're doing is we're basically mapping, okay? We're following the steps, as it were. We did step 1, step 2, right? And then step 3 and 4, we're going to move into Illustrator. So think of step 1 and 2 as by hand, and think of step 3 and 4 as building it in Illustrator and adding a font using Illustrator program. But it's going to go fast, right? This is a rapid exercise, and so we're going to develop this poster in a much faster way. So we're speeding up time, but applying the same technical skills that we learned from the Mickey Mouse T-shirt exercise. Okay. All right, guys. So that'll do it for this pre-recorded video. Let's go ahead and develop it. And in the next pre-recorded video, we'll talk a little bit about how to interpret or convert your ideas on paper into a Illustrator file format. So we'll see you for the next one. And thanks for your attention. See you in class.